Hey guys, what is going on? It is Ando, and we've got another, what we were calling a Galactic Legends video, but now we're going to be calling the most effective Galactic Legend comp video. So before we get into the video, guys, if you guys could hit the thumbs up, comment on what your favorite part of this video is, and then, if you aren't subscribed to the channel, if you guys could also help us out by doing that as well. Okay, so like I said, last month we did a July version of it. It was mostly based off the 5v5 GAC data. I got some feedback from it. Obviously wanted to implement some of it. Some of it was just good feedback, but just couldn't implement it. But basically, instead of a GL ranking video that's based off of GAC data, what I'm going to end up calling this is, like I said, the most effective Galactic Legends comp. And it's going to be using GAC data, so therefore the way you infer that is that it's going to be for GAC. So again, this is for August 2023. We are in 3v3. I will give a little bit of background information again, just because we've kind of revised some things. All data is from SWGoH.gg. It is all still Kyber 1. Again, I want to help eliminate the noise, so to speak. These are players that should want to play. These are players that are trying their best. Usually, right, like that's the population that is probably the most controlled right now, just by its size, basically. They also usually have the best relics. They usually have the best, datacrons. And so there's less mismatching, right? There's still mismatching that happens, 10 million versus 12 million GP guys, but you're not gonna find in Carbonite where a 12 million GP player is facing a 1 million GP player. So anyways, just want to get that out of the way, and why we're still keeping that in there. We did also include data that said that both attackers and defenders are going to have datacrons. Again, we want our data to be representative of the video at the time. We don't really care that somebody placed a no datacron team and that some awesome datacron that is out is beating it. Doesn't really help us. We also excluded all cleanup data, so this is just all kind of first time attacks. So again, the whole reason of this is we should kind of get an accurate depiction of how people are using their GLs and just kind of deploying them for that current season. The order is going to be based more on the defensive side of things, but this time I did definitely bring a little bit more of the offensive side of things as well into that ranking. And then the data is objective, but just because I'm adding my own personal opinion, sometimes these will become a little bit subjective. So without further ado, let's go ahead and move into the ranking. Now, this one kind of shocked me, guys, but at the same time it didn't. So for number 7 on this month, it's Jabba, and he was second last month. So you can see in parentheses what they were last season with their raw.gg data when we did the video last time. So in 3,941 battles, a little bit less of battles there. I don't know, maybe people just aren't playing 3v3 as much or something like that. Like even in Kyber 1, or maybe they just aren't clearing enough, or whatever the case is. But the success rate was 85% at 54.6 banners, so decent banners. But that's a far cry from what it was in 5v5 with the 50.9% at 58.7 banners. The best DC set for Jabba is still your set 9. The notable counters here. So on defense, JMK and SLKR are the two big ones. They're basically they're virtually 100%. JMK is the more efficient play. It's almost a full, if you look on the .gg, it's almost a full banner win. SLKR is reliable, but it costs about 4 to 6 banners. On offense, he's the best thing that you can really do with him is he can kind of kill Rey. It is a timeout though, and all of his other data really was just non-GL teams, so it really does lend him to being on the defensive side of things. You just are kind of understanding that you're going to basically be exchanging a JMK or SLK. Again, you guys can kind of pick on which one you're going to do. JMK is definitely the more clean battle. Okay, this is a huge change. So what kind of gives? Jabba was always a little bit worse in threes, honestly. He just needs, he definitely is better with a full squad. It also doesn't help him that, part of his team is light side. You really do want boost in there. I didn't really see anything convincing that would say like, hey, Gamguard in there, or even Embo. Like the team really did do its best with Boosh in there. So again, it's, you know, you're sacrificing 15% health and protection. You know, the other thing was, you know, JMK got a better cron this time, so I think a lot of that definitely helped. But that's kind of the story of Jabba. He kind of dropped a little bit this 3v3 season. Okay, JML. So he was 7th last month. He's 6th now. This feels about what I would expect him to be. I think this is a little bit of a return. Battles on defense this time, people like to place him on defense a little bit more, apparently. You know, he's 819 on 5v5 at this time. He was less than 400. Success rate is also down a little bit, so that's a nice little bump up for him. So 76.92% at 54 banners, as opposed to 5v5, which was 82.37% banners at 60.5 banners. 82.37% success rate, I should say. The best DC set, he still favors set 9 just because that has that raw protection percentage. However, I will say this, set 10 is also very good for him, especially with the foresight. You can spam foresight and you can kind of build up your offense from there. It's very viable. The notable counters, if you're going to place him on defense, Reva is still the huge problem for JML in defense, especially when it comes to off meta options, but there's also still dash and gas. Those ones are a little bit more iffy on, you know, the percentages and what comp it is, but it does still exist on top of most of the GLs that can beat him. On offense, he's actually pretty good right now. You can kill Lord Vader's top comp. You can, with the set 9 Bastilacron, and as long as it has some decent protection percentage, it's a 72% win, which honestly for Vader was a pretty solid win for him. And then it's even higher if you look into the data. There's a bunch of people that lost, or maybe not a bunch, but there is quite a few people that were losing it. Those guys, you know, I think like the biggest one that I saw was like a 16% protection cron or something like that. So one guy lost it with like an 80%. I'm going to write that off as like that guy pressed auto and then the AI didn't play it right, because there's just no way that should have happened. But yeah, and he's also back to killing JMKs again as well. You know, at a decent percentage again, another 72%. So again, this kind of feels like a return to JML for me. This is the space for him. He kind of does pretty good against GLs. He's a so-so on defense. He needs probably someone, but these protection crons are definitely helping him boost up a little bit. All right, so SLKR, no change from last month. He was 5th last month as well. Now on defense, only 77 people set him. Well, 77 battles against him. The success rate was 72% at 54.7 banners. Last month, it was 75% at 61.4. His best DC set is still set 9. His notable counters are honestly on defense, it's just not worth it. Don't set him on defense. On offense, he has a 90% win rate in over 3,600 battles, which is pretty insane. And his downfall, though, in threes really is the fact that you're going to get that 51.8 banner average. He kills almost everything. It's just a banner hit, so you have to kind of figure it out. The thing that you need to figure out with him is what comp you're going to run, right? So Watt is obviously always kind of been tied to him in threes. With this Datacron set with set 9, it's a little bit different. He can actually survive quite long, especially if you're doing like Jabba. If you have some defense percentage on his cron as well, they usually can't even kill crew unless it's a Jabba ult on him. Yeah, it's usually keep 2 people standing at the end of it. It's pretty fun actually. But kind of like I said, SLKR has many faces: Watt, Armor, Night Sister, his first order buddies, but they all work because at the end of the day they just end up usually dying. Just kind of the way that SLKR treats his friends, you know. So another kind of boring one is Rey. Actually, you know, she was 4th last month as well. Not much of a change here. You could see people still love placing Rey. The success rate is pretty comparable to what it was in fives last set or last GAC. Set 9 is still kind of the best, and it's the most effective at stopping the #1 counter, which is EP Star Killer. It's a lot cleaner to look at the data here in 3s versus 5s, because not many there's so many comps in 5s for what are you going to pick as your other 2 options in, you know, the raid team. What are you going to pick as your other 2 options in the EP Star Killer Mara J team? So all those kind of affect how well those counters do, but you can see it's at a 63% for, you know, 2,400 battles. That's kind of low, honestly. I thought it would be a little bit higher. The biggest risk though for Rey, which was the biggest risk for set or 5v5, was how much defense percentage is going to be on that Kron. When I was looking up at all the fails, it was a pretty clear indication that the ones that were sitting at 200, 250% or higher defense percentage, people were struggling with. Now, I know I've been told that sometimes, you know, the second Omicron matters, and I was still seeing, you know, I didn't do an actual comparison, but I was still seeing 2 Omicron, 3 Omicron SKs fail. Maybe it's misplays, maybe it's, you know, just bad timing or whatever the case is, but it doesn't seem to be as positive as everyone says it's going to be. I don't know, maybe there's some further digging that I need to do in there. Now on offense is, you know, there was 728 battles. This is what I've been doing all season. It's almost a 90% win rate, but it is 54 banners, so, you know, you lose those 3 banners usually in the protection. You just usually can't recover them. And so yeah, just kind of the trade-offs with using her on defense. She's really good, but you also can win a lot of battles with her. So yes, it's the stats are nice in 3s. Like I said, it's a more cleaner. We can kind of see who is truly the best comp, and I do think the one that is on the screen right here is the best comp. You aren't wrong if you stick her on defense with a 250+%, you know, set 9 defense Kron. It seems like it works quite fine. So that's Rey. All right, so number 3, and I debated on this for a long time, guys, because I really feel like right now people aren't giving C the respect that he deserves. He was 3rd last month for me as well, but I really actually was just tempted to just throw him as number 1, just so that way people would give him a little bit more respect, or at least some attention. Now, it does seem like maybe there's been a little bit of traction, because the battles did increase on defense. You know, there was 403 instances where people were placing him on defense. His success rate is wild. 58% of the time people were succeeding against him for 53.6 banner average. That's down quite a bit, or, you know, it's down a couple percentage from 5v5. And obviously the best DC set for him is set 9 with the level 6 ability block. I mean, it's just crazy. Like it is absolutely infuriating, guys. Some notable counters on defense. This guy, like I said, he's a monster. If your opponent does a good job at actually, you know, setting up a defense that is set around C, good luck clearing it, right? Unless you brought every single Galactic Legend on offense, and some more, you know, some other teams try to kill those other ones that usually some people are relying upon, you know, the non-GLs that GLs will kill. Good luck, guys. Like, I'm telling you, this thing is infuriating. I think my first week I was just stumped by C, and it's, you know, I did it too. So it's just one of those things where if you just don't have the counter for it, like I said, good luck. It's pretty hard. It even makes C mirrors, which is typically how people always answer C, is, you know, that's like the first line of defense. Like, hey, if I have my C and I see a Sith Eternal out there, I'm gonna just do a mirror match, win it, and it'll be done for. It was about 50% with the C mirrors, and that's to include Watt. Watt was a little bit higher, I believe. Actually, no, I take that back. Watt was actually lower, and that's because your Sith Eternal on defense can actually get the link in. The highest one was actually when there was just a C alone, like an actual C solo. Very risky, I would assume. Very interesting though that people were able to kind of figure that one out. But with the constant ability blocks, I think you just end up timing out for a vast majority of it. Maybe if you get the, you know, if you're faster than your opponent's C and you can kind of get the links in first. But yeah, it's really, really wild. So yeah, just so you know, on offense, his data speaks probably a little bit louder than it should. When I looked at it at first, I was like, wow, that's really good. He's winning 90.4% of the time in about 3,000 battles. And so I was like, that's really good. And then I started kind of looking into the teams, and obviously most people are using him as a Malgus killer. That makes sense because most people don't really have a Malgus counter. If they're setting the, you know, the good comp, I guess if you call it. But if you just exclude it to just using a GL, you know, if it's C versus another GL, his success drops to about a 70%. So it's quite a bit of a steep drop off from that. I think that probably tells the bigger picture. It probably shows a better picture. Still not horrible by any means, but it does, I think, show you a little bit more accurate of what you're capable of doing. That being said, like I said, most people are using him against Malgus, and if that's your plan, then yeah, obviously you need that. But if there is a way that you guys can try and bring him off of offense and use him on defense, he's obviously doing some pretty good stuff if you've got that ability block on level 6. So yeah, like I said, the additional info, guys, for if you are going to bring him on defense, you need to use him. He's a back wall team. You have to kind of try and make sure you bring out your JMKs, you bring out your Rays if they're going to use him on offense, but you don't really have to usually worry about that. But SLKR, right? I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that were out there. Most of the off meta stuff doesn't work anymore. Wampa's it's never going to work. I don't remember Reva off the top of my head. I know in 5s it works, but I don't think that it was super successful in 3s. So yeah, I like I said, I think there's a very good case for him to move up. Based off the other data, I just couldn't really justify it. Okay, so I did move. I debated on these two for a really long time as well. I put number 2 as Lord Vader. He was first last month. And in 3,384 battles, the success rate for him was just a little bit over 70% at 52.2 banners. Last in 5v5s, right? Like it was just a little bit less. It's because he gained so much ult with his so much mastery with his ult. But on top of that, he also just benefits so much from health and protection, right? And the rest of his team does too. You know, you think about Maul and stuff like that. All of their damage, a lot of their damage and stuff like that comes from some of their, you know, health percentages and whatnot. So he definitely takes a hit, and that's why I think I bumped him down a little bit. But the big thing about this on defense, guys, Thrawn and Maul is the way. Like I will say that till the end, because there is only one non-GL comp, and that is Fennec. And if you can take Fennec out, and if you can basically take that out of the equation, which you effectively do with this comp, it's 17% in 156 battles with this comp. You basically are forcing a Galactic Legend. There's not really another comp on .gg insights in that that data set that I spoke about earlier. There wasn't really any off meta stuff that was going on. You really kind of stop it from happening. I don't know if that means that people are afraid and not trying it, or if people have already tried it and figured out it doesn't work, but it doesn't really seem like there's much off meta. And even with this comp, there is some chances for failure. I mean, SLKR I think was close to an 80% with this. With some of his teams, I think if you ran with your armor and Watt, I think it's a little bit higher, closer to 90%. JMK I think was pretty much close to like an 85%. So for the most part, it's actually, fairly easy to get through if you're bringing a Galactic Legend. Like I said, JML actually beats this comp as long as you bring in your Basti Kron with decent protection percentages. But the additional info in here is, and I'm speaking from experience on this one, if you do mess up, if for whatever reason you think that you're just going to kind of bring in JML without like a good protection Kron and kill only 2 of these guys, and that you'll maybe be able to clean up, it's really, really tough, especially if they've got that ability block on level 6. It's really, really tough to kind of clean that up, unless you have Fennec's crew. But in my case, I had already used up some of my bounty hunters and some of my scoundrels. Lord Vader, he was sort of just kind of hanging out up top on the zone. I killed his sides, and I just could not bring him down. I tried 15 different teams, and I couldn't do it. So just so you know, that solo Lord Vader, he can shut you down for sure. Okay, last but not least is Jedi Master Kenobi. Now, he was 6 on last month's list. He has, maybe you could argue he was a little bit low. Maybe you could argue that it was unfair. The thing with him was he was actually not being very successful against Jabba. He was not being very successful against some of the other teams. Lord Vader was another one. I think people were just timing out on him. It was just taking too long to kind of get through him. But it seems like we maybe got a little bit of an answer here. So with 560 battles on defense, last 5v5 is 871. There was a success rate of about a 72% at 53.2 banners. So bleeding quite a bit of banners. And then, last round it was 60% or 69% at 60.5 banners. Now, the big change here is that while set 9 was great for him, he actually did like it. There's, a lot you can health stack, and that gives him extra bonus protection, bulk. There's a lot to like there, actually, but he actually favors set 10, especially because you're gonna probably use him on offense. As you can see here in the notable counters section. On defense, the JMK mirror is still basically an auto win. 86%, but I think a lot of those were just either they had mace in there that was kind of, if they have mace in there, it can make it to where the cat kind of can leap out of character, I guess, and attack someone. Some of the ones too, I think, were like they weren't looking at speeds and they didn't bring in a tank kind of thing. There were some weird ones in there. I think that percentage should be up there a little bit more. It's not a hard one to kill as long as you kind of know what you're doing. But that being said, on offense, he is by far your number 1 Jabba counter. It was actually just pretty much no one was losing it at all. You can run GK or Mace on there. Doesn't really matter. Didn't really affect the percentage too much. And he really just countered everything. 93% battles won in over 3,000 battles. And that the big thing is at an average of 56 banners. That's 1 banner missing, basically. That's crazy. So he's an absolute efficiency player dream. Kills everything, and does it with high banners typically. With the additional info, we're talking about this. So it's a big jump for JMK. Like I said, last month, you could argue that maybe he was 5th. You could argue that maybe he was 4th. It's hard to argue that he was, I think, in the top 3 just because those 3 were just such stalwarts on defense that it was hard to kind of knock those guys out. But now with set 10, it's just very good for him. He's just a very effective in 3s as well, just because Cat just instantly nukes someone. You got a 3v2. It's a little bit different in 5v5, especially because you're gonna have to kill a tank usually, or you're gonna have to kill something else and all that good stuff. So he's by far a lot better in 3s, I think, just in general. But the fact that they added set 10, the foresight Kron on him, works wonders, and he's actually just really, really good. So anyways, guys, I know this is a little bit longer video just because we have to kind of explain where we're going with this. But hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully it was a nice little redemption for all those people that were so upset last one with JMK. He is pretty awesome this time. He's pretty fun to play with if you've got the right cron set. And so anyways, like I said, this will probably be my last video for a while. I'm going to be taking a family trip for a little bit. But when I come back, I will return with some videos and hopefully give you guys some pretty good content moving forward. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like I said, if you guys could hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel to help us out, give us a comment, and we'll see you guys in the next one.